If I could have everyone stand for the entrance of the family, we'll get started.
For Patty's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. We join together to mourn. We cannot imagine our world today without our beloved Patty. God, in this moment where words feel difficult, help us to remember Patty and to honor the person she was. We surround with our love and support Patty's family. We have her husband, Joel, her children, Cynthia, Michael, and Joshua, Lisa, and Joanne, sisters Carol and Anne, grandchildren Hannah, Ross, Caleb, Jonas, Brenna, Megan, Maddie, Jax, and Josie, and her two great-granddaughters who are also here, Stevie Rose and Daisy Claire. And all of us are with all of you as you mourn Patty today. We now turn to the sacred words of our tradition, which Patty treasured so much, for comfort at this time. Adonai mi yagor ba'holecha, mi yishkon b'har kodshecha, holech tamim ufe'el tzedek u'dever emet bil v'vavo. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who never take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Esa anai el heharim ma'ayin yavo ezri, ezri ma'im Adonai oseh shemayim va'aretz. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. Adonai roi lo echzar bin ot desha yirbitseni, al mai menucha yinahaleni, nafshi yishovev yinacham galei tzedek lema'an shemo. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I would now like to ask Josh to come share some memories of his mom.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Mom, you were the strongest, most fearless, loving woman I've ever known. Your beauty was not just in your appearance, it was profound and deeply meaningful. You carried yourself with such strength, determination, and grit, which was indelible, left an indelible mark on everyone you knew. Your incredible love for animals, bunnies, and mostly horses was authentic and beautiful, yet paled in comparison to the love and devotion you had for your family, your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, and your friends as well. There was no obstacle too great, no challenge too daunting, no mountain you couldn't climb. As a little boy, I watched in awe as you poured yourself into your work. After long days of teaching, you would spend countless hours working into the late of the night, focused, driven, and completely committed to your craft. I remember those nights so vividly. You would sit on the right side of your bed, propped up with pillows, your makeshift desk formed by the space around you, the soft glow of your bedside lamp lit up your reports as your pen danced across the pages hour after hour. No matter how exhausted you were or how much work you had, you always made time to kiss me hello whenever I came in the room. You were highly respected in your field as a speech and language pathologist. Your expertise was unmatched, but to me, you were simply the best mother anyone could have. So who was Patricia Dunsky? She was the epitome of a mama bear, always walking just a few steps behind, ready to defend her cubs from any predator that approached. No threat, big or small, could stand in her way. She was always there for her kids, always, even when we didn't think we needed her. As children, we learn about boundaries. Don't touch the hot stove, don't play with sharp knives, don't involve yourself in other people's business. However, despite all her wisdom and life experience, the concept of boundaries never quite made sense to my mother. She was always ready to jump in with her advice, her perspective, or just to add in her 2 cents, regardless of any request to do so. We definitely butt heads over the years, and I do hate to admit this, but most of the time she was right. She was. My mother had intuition like no one else, and I would give anything to have her meddle in my life one more time. My mother lived life on her own terms, at her own pace, and in her own way. She was the kind of person you would want to walk by if you were struggling, if you were homeless, if you were hungry, or without hope. My mother saw beyond the surface. She didn't just see the dirty clothes, the smell of alcohol, or the body curled up in the street. She saw the beautiful soul in need of kindness. And I'll never forget that cold November day when I came home and found one of those souls sleeping peacefully on our couch, face down, tucked in under a warm quilt, with one arm hanging off the side. That woman, homeless and without hope, had found shelter. She found shelter for one night. Some people might have said, "Patty, you're crazy. How could you bring someone like that into your home?" But my mother would have said, "How could you not bring that person into your home?" And that was her heart, and that was her way. She also brought me to my first R-rated movie. I don't think she knew what she was doing. I don't think she knew what Saturday Night Fever was about when she brought me into that movie theater. And I was about to become a man that night until she realized what she did, and very quickly grabbed me by my right ear. I remember it was my right ear, up the alley and out the movie theater. She ruined everything. My mother reminds me of Mighty Mouse. Small, classy, and well-dressed, but packed with a strength and power. She had the heart of a lion hidden in a petite, delicate frame. And I see the same strength in my daughter Josie, beautiful, poised, intelligent, yet a pit bull just the same. That's a compliment. Even when words were difficult and her strength was waning, she still found energy to tell my dad to stop shuffling his feet and whistling. That would always drive her crazy. And that was just in the past few days. One of the most cherished memories in these final days was watching a documentary about horses with my mom. We laid in bed and watched her true love, those majestic horses, those majestic creatures. And through different parts of the movie, she would often comment on how beautiful this movie was and how beautiful the creatures are. It was simple, yet it captured the essence of who she was. Sensitive, loving, and in awe of the beauty in the world. My mother's heart was always open to everyone. She was the voice of the voiceless, the ear of the unheard, and the passion that kept life moving forward. She and my dad spent more than 62 years together, loving, supporting, and navigating all the highs and all the lows in life, life through their way. Their bond was unbreakable, built on a foundation of shared strength, laughter, and unwavering love. This past year has been incredibly difficult for my mother. Yet through it all, my dad has been her rock. He has guided her, supported her every step of the way, offering his strength when hers was fading. My dad never sought thanks or recognition throughout his whole life, actually, for the countless sacrifices he made, for the late nights, the quiet moments of care, and the long days of worry. He never needed acknowledgement. His only focus was caring on the woman he loved with all his heart, devoted, steady, and always by her side, right up until her very last breath. Mom, you're a fighter. Fighting for what you believed in. Fighting through physical struggles that would have brought most people to their knees. But not you. You weren't going to be stopped. Even at the end, when it was hard to speak, when opening your eyes was a struggle. You found the strength to speak your mind. You fought every step of the way. I would give anything right now to have one more text, one more email, and one more phone call asking for my flight itinerary, my hotel information, and my room number. Or even a request to help her recover her passwords. That is then when I would tell her how proficient Michael was at recovering passwords, and you should call him. He then proceeded to tell my mother that Cynthia is the master at recovering passwords, and passed that phone call down. And now you see how our IT department works in our family. Now, Mom, it's time for you to rest. I look forward to the day when I can hold your soft hand, kiss your beautiful face, tell you just how much I truly love you. You will forever be in our hearts, and your legacy will live on in the love you gave, the lessons you taught, and the strength you instilled in all of us. I love you, Mom.
Michael will now share some memories.
How does anybody follow that? There's so much to say about Patty. You know, as children, she taught us how to use a fork and toilet paper. She never held back. She was feisty. She was driven. She was charismatic. And she had so much caring and love for everybody. Josh wasn't kidding around when he mentioned the horses. She had such a passion for horses when she was younger. She would go riding all the time. She would bring Josh to muck out the stables while I hid around the corner so I didn't have to do that. But she taught us so many things in terms of ourselves and the world. She was very charitable and philanthropic. She was very much involved in veterans organizations. I think up until even a few weeks ago, she was helping Dad make 1,000 sandwiches a week for the homeless. Okay, maybe 3 weeks ago. But she was a force to be reckoned with. She, as Josh said, she was tiny, but she was mighty. And I think it was one of her good friends that said that she was a tiny force who championed all that she believes in. And that's so true. And regardless of your opinion, she always had the ability to see the other side. When you were in a discussion with her, and if you had different sides of things, she would respect that. And that was the beauty of her. She could understand where someone else was coming from and accept that. She didn't have to be right. She was just expressing her values and opinions, but she'd be very much willing to go ahead and accept everybody else's. When Joanne and I got together, she opened her arms and embraced Joanne and Megan like nobody's business, and she opened up her heart and her arms for all of that. She loved more than anything in the world Hannah and Ross. You were the light of her life. And we have a couple of people to attest that Hannah's voice is a lot stronger than her baby's right now. But we have a funny story where the first time Grammy babysat Hannah with a couple of friends who are here, the first step we took out the door, she screamed loud enough to turn on the alarms. So, and little baby Stevie is not too far behind her. She was definitely driven. She knew what she wanted. She went back to school and put herself through higher education to become a speech pathologist, speaking language pathologist. And she did that all the while we were in, I think it was junior high school, and she just wanted something and she went after it. And she lived her life like that. So Mom was not exactly a giant statured person. When she became a speech pathologist, one of her jobs was with Head Start. And she had to go down to Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, where some of her patients were. And if you know anything about the middle 80s, early 80s, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, it was not exactly the place for this 4'0" petite little storm that would barge right through and walk down Geneva Ave like she owned the city. She wasn't deterred at all. Sorry, just a couple of notes on my passport just showed up. Technology. Mom had a funny little quirks. We were out to dinner a couple of times, and she had a dairy allergy that she told everybody because she didn't like to have dairy in some of her food. So we were out for dinner one night, and the waiter comes over, and Mom is sitting here buttering her bread and tells the waiter she's allergic to dairy, so no dairy on her food. But she's in the middle of buttering her piece of bread at the time. That was Patty. Josh was right in terms of her IT challenges. We would get those calls in the middle of the night. Mike, can you help me find my contacts? The next few days, I would get another call. I found them. She would then tell us she made appointments at the Apple Store, at the Genius Bar, where they fix everything. Those poor technicians. Because she was there numerous times, and I think eventually she's been banned from the Apple Store, but I'm not quite sure they implemented that. We could confide in her, and she could confide in us. And it was really good to have that person there on your side, regardless of what you were going through, where you are in the world, to lend an ear and listen to us. And she would always have our back. No matter what, she would always have our back. She was always concerned about us kids. Mike, have you heard from Josh? Cindy, have you heard from Mike? Mike, what's happening with the grandkids? How's Hannah? How's Ross? How's Megan? How's Brenna? How are the babies doing? How's Greg doing? Where's Greg? There's Greg. How's Greg doing? Greg's our other child. But she always was wondering where we were. She wanted to know really what we were doing at that time. It wasn't just what are you doing, it's what are you doing? She really wanted to hear it. She taught a lot about morals and values, and as Josh said, she never said that somebody needs a handout, but she's always said and taught me that somebody always needs a hand up. And that's what we can get from Patty, is she was always willing to give a hand up, including the person that we found on our couch one morning, and many, many other examples of how she lived her life. She had a strong love and devotion to Dad, and you guys had over 62 years of marriage, and she brought the world to you, and she brought the world to us. And we are going to miss her. More than anything in the world, we're going to miss her. I'm going to miss you, Mom. We're all going to miss you. And each and every one of you are here for a special reason, that Patty touched you in some way, which made it so you're here now to help celebrate her and celebrate her life. We're all going to miss you. May your memory be for a blessing.
Patty's daughter Cynthia will now share her memories.
I'm not a fan of public speaking, but I'm honored to be able to do this today for my mom and my family. Thank you all for your presence, your love, and the acknowledgement of my mom's life. Literally thousands of people from around the globe, thank you to social media, have reached out to my family to show their support and love for Patty and all of us. And you'll hear some redundancy because that's how impactful she was to all of us. We have vivid memories of a lot of the same things. As a friend of my mom shared, Patty is a small but mighty champion in all that she believed in, and that could not be a more perfect description of her. She had many loves in life and was extremely protective of all things she held sacred. She loved God and was deeply intuitive and spiritual. She could sniff out a bad person a mile away. She fiercely, fiercely loved my dad for over 60 years, along with her kids, her grandkids, her great-grandkids, and her 8 granddogs. And her bonus family, who she welcomed as her own. She loved all things nature, animals, and especially horses. She loved her country, she loved her military, and she loved to thank those who served. So on behalf of Patty and my entire family, a huge thank you to our dad, our veterans, our active military for your courage and sacrifices. She loved her pinkish coral lip gloss that she would have on her lips and her teeth many times. She loved texting us at all hours of the day, and especially at 1 a.m., whilst shopping on Amazon, ordering everyone a bottle of colloidal silver for when they started to feel sick. True story. She loved to be up to date on current events and discuss her beliefs and points of view with anyone who would listen. If you've ever been in one of those conversations, although she respected other people's opinions, they were at times very spicy. They could get And if someone had a different point of view, she wouldn't just shut them down. She would truly ask why they thought that way. And she wanted to know why. And then she would shut them down. You would know when Patty really loved something, and you'd really know when she did not. She was not afraid to speak her mind. She loved helping people, as was evident by her career as a speech-language pathologist and working with the elderly and with autistic children. And I didn't remember the time, but I also vaguely remember this person sleeping on the couch that we had no idea who she was. And that is a true testament of the heart that my mother had for humanity and other people. She loved her movies. She loved true crime drama and like weird, dark stuff that only Patty. And she loved to share any Netflix or Amazon movies or series that she found meaningful, and she would do that by texting us all the names and making sure time after time after time that we watched it. She was blessed with many beautiful friendships, some over 60, 70 years, and some more recent, but she believed in fostering her relationships, especially with her close friends who were just like family, and we're so grateful to those who have been there for her till the very end. As you will hear, she loved to travel and learn about other cultures in different parts of the world, and she and my dad would always bring back very, very meaningful gifts from the places that they traveled for all of us. I had a bucket list trip last month planned to Italy, and I had debated not going because she was starting to have more and more treatments and transfusions, and I was a little afraid to leave. But she told me and my dad that you better go. So I went, and when I got back and she was in the hospital, we just sat in her bed, and I went through all the pictures with her and shared all the experiences that I had. And she was so happy. She loved card games, especially bridge with her friends, and spending quality time with her grandchildren at our lake house playing board games, sitting on the deck, and just enjoying being out in nature with her family. My mom was a big believer in our Second Amendment rights. And you can file this under, I bet you didn't know about Patty. Patty had a concealed carry permit in 2 states. She loved to go to the range and shoot guns, and her and my dad did, and she was a great shot. I bet you didn't know. My mom was super funny and had the most infectious laugh that if you didn't think something was originally funny, by the time you heard her laughing, you were laughing, you were smiling, and sometimes you might have peed your pants a little. There are so many beautiful, funny, and meaningful memories I could share. For now, despite her barely 5-foot delicate frame, she moved through life with fierce determination of a warrior, blazing trails of courage, unbreakable resolve, her tiny body as a vessel for an immeasurable strength that would echo in the memories of all who knew her. In the end, the cancer was shutting her little tiny body down, and the treatments were no longer working as well as we had hoped. She had been through so much physically, and she was just tired. She chose to be home, surrounded by her family and loved ones until the very end. The biggest blessing is that we got to focus on and be fully present with her every day and every night for the past few weeks, and have the ability to share with her how much we loved her and what a true gift she was in all of our lives. As she knew the end was near, her spirit did not want to go. And in usual Patty fashion, She was fiercely fighting to stay. My dad had this adorable whisper, whistle, shuffle, pacing thing he does when he's anxious. And she had this moment where she was in and out of sleep, and she woke up. Josh alluded to this. "Joel, quit shuffling. I can only see your shoulder and the back of your head." That was Patty. In the end, she had moments of letting us know that she wanted to get better, but her body said otherwise. God knew it was time for her suffering to end. I take solace in knowing that she is at peace, no longer in pain or struggling, and her beautiful spirit will live on forever. She once told us in her cute but sinister laugh that when she goes, she will haunt us from beyond. Her cute way of saying she'll be with us forever. She's keeping her promise already, because I had opened up Instagram this morning to respond to some messages, and as soon as I did, one of the first pictures I saw was a saying, I can't repeat it because I'd have to put money in the swear jar, but she had just given me, she bought us both a mug, and it had the exact same saying on it. So Patty is with us. When I told her that I loved her, she'd always say, "But I always loved you first." I love you, Mommy, and thank you for giving us the best and most beautiful life. Thank you.
Eshed Chayo Miimsa, V'rachok Mitnini Mikra. A woman of valor who can find. She's more precious than fine pearls. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Patty exemplified in Eshed Chayo, a woman of valor. And today we come together to honor and remember her legacy, which lives on in all of you who love her. Patty's legacy of caring for you and worrying, and yes, her legacy of Jewish guilt that she instilled in all of you was so obvious in the way that you gathered to support her. And obviously, she was such a model for all of you of how to be a mensch, because the way that you came together for her is really unusual and beautiful. And just last Sunday, Patty lay in her bed, and her children, and Josie was there, and Joel was there, surrounded her. And it was such a beautiful moment, just filled with love and prayer. And just this week, in the Torah, our patriarch Isaac dies. And we read that when he breathed his last and died, he was gathered to his kin. And that's exactly what Patty was. She was gathered to her kin. And I can't think of a more beautiful way for such a beautiful person to die. Patty was gathered to her kin in her last days, the matriarch of your family, who will never be forgotten. Patty lived her values, and her connection to Jewish tradition was a big part of that. Cynthia, Josh, and Michael shared with me that she made Shabbat dinner every Friday, and very impressively, Joel built a sukkah each year, I'm sure under Patty's direction. Being an active part of synagogue life was important to them both, and they connected on this early on in their courtship, a dedication that continues to inspire her children and grandchildren today. Patty, even in her worst, especially in her worst moments of pain, would always find something positive to focus on and look forward to. And just very recently, she was gushing about how excited she was to celebrate with Jax and Josie this fall for their B'nai Mitzvah. The thought of the two of you having this simcha really lit her up inside. And it gave her something awesome to look forward to and fight for. And so even though she won't be out on the dance floor with you, she won't be physically with you, you will feel her energy and presence. She will be with you, 100%. Patty was happiest when family and friends were around. Her friends were like sisters to her. She grew up in the Boston area, very close with her family, and spent some time living on her uncle's chicken farm, which, as is a lifelong lover of animals, she did not like meat in her dinner. After Patty graduated with her teaching degree, Joel and Patty were set up by friends, although Joel did not ask Patty out quick enough, and Patty never let him forget it. It was obvious how much these two absolutely adored each other and took care of each other every day. And the key to that marriage, as the Torah teaches, is happy wife, happy life. Just this year, when Patty decided she needed her own office so she could have her own space to do her own business, and of course write all of her super thoughtful cards, she never lost her energy for decorating this new house. Every time I would come over, she would say, "Oh, I'm still working on that corner." Or Joel said just last week, she said, "Oh, we need a new chair over here." She always had a real vision and was excited about it through the end. Patty just did Patty. Her family shares that she didn't care what others thought. She was a good sport and never mind looking goofy. She was decked out in bling for Cynthia's themed birthday party. She was charmingly self-deprecating and made fun of herself. She was a joy to be with. She also stood up for herself, and I love this story, and I will take this story with me. I asked about her favorite, was she a cook? Did she cook a lot? And her kids told me, well, she cooked for her family for 25 years, and then on their 25th anniversary, she said to Joel, "It's your turn." And he said, "Yes, dear." Truly, doing Patty is an inspiration. She began her career as an elementary school teacher on Joel's Army base, and then when the kids were in school, she had the chutzpah to go back to school, which is really, really impressive with 3 kids. And her kids agree that she was even smarter than Joel, which is saying something, because they are both so sharp. She had a storied career, which we've talked about. And like was mentioned, she wasn't scared of anyone. She was so little, and she and I related on, being petite. And I heard she took a self-defense class, and I tell you, I would not have wanted to run into her in a dark alley. Okay? She could relate to people so naturally from all ages and backgrounds, and she showed everyone dignity and respect. As a mother, Patty was so supportive of her kids in every way. She loved going to all of their games, and they all had athletic pursuits, and she did the same with her grandchildren. And when I asked what she inherited from her parents, everyone said the ability to worry. So you've already heard that she did that, and she always worried about you, whether she was dragging you by the ear to get you out of a dangerous situation, or when she took her vitamins, bugging you to take your vitamins. She could know when you needed her, when you needed a phone call, and she loved connecting with all of you. Josh shared that, I love this story, that she helped him move to Atlanta, and they had this long drive, and she kept saying to him, "Don't speed, don't speed." And then she took a shift the next morning, and he woke up to her being pulled over for going 100 miles an hour. And you see this little punum on police stations all over, most wanted, Patty Dunsky. And it goes along with Patty packing, which we now know, right? This is the idea of Patty packing her tiny gun, right? Just what a dynamo. She loved her horses, especially her last horse, Nikki, and this is something she inspired her son Josh and then her granddaughter Hannah also to have a love of horses. We mentioned that she loved travel. She'd been to Israel 4 times to visit family. And just a few years ago, Patty and Joel were on a bush plane in Alaska. She was so strong through all her treatments. She was a trooper. She suffered really serious pain through her life, but she was resolved to spend as much time with all of you as she could. And when she was battling colon cancer 20 years ago, she would be knocked out for days, and then every Friday she would get up excited to design this log cabin with Joel, and was so excited about every aspect of that. And that cabin became a place of so many memories for your family. She was persistent, even through chemo, trying to do a project like that. It's really unbelievable. She was so engaged with life through the very end, enjoying her chocolate or Tootsie Rolls at 6:30 in the morning. She was constantly, we were talking about books a lot just a few weeks ago. We had a very great conversation about the election. She knew everything about it. Her brain was always going. And when she told you she wanted you to see something, she knew you needed to see it. She was persistent. We will miss getting these texts and calls from her so much. We will miss her voice saying, "Joel." We will miss her texts and calls trying to track all of you down, her adult children, some of whom are grandparents. She needed to know where you are. You will miss her incredibly cute, infectious laughter that made her curl up like a little shrimp in a joke, or when she would crack herself up telling a joke or watching Bridesmaids or other goofy movies. Her legacy, her story will always be with you as we celebrate our Jewish traditions and support our friends and families. These traditions she passed down to you will forever be in your hearts and in your neshamot, your Jewish souls and your Jewish adjacent souls. A woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Although Patty is no longer with us, her spirit will live on in your work towards Tikkun Olam, the healing of our world, and in your contribution to causes you believe in. Her spirit will live on when you celebrate holidays and simchas together, and you reflect on her life and everything she brought you. Her spirit will live on when you support those who need you the most, and her memory will live on when you are strong in the face of fear and pain. Patty's devotion to her friends, family, and community are the precious memories you all take with you in your lives as you go forward. For so much that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. May Patty's memory be remembered for a blessing and always bring you strength. May these memories comfort and sustain you and inspire you always. God, you have given us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Please take a few minutes for personal prayer and reflection. Please rise for El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim shochein bemromim hamsa menucha nechona tachet kanfei hashechina im kedoshim uthorim kazohar rakia matzirim et nishmat Pesha Leah bat Emmanuel v'Shoshana shehalach laolamo. Ba'al harachamim yastarehu beseter kanafav laolamim v'yitzur bitzur hachayim et nishmato et hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mish kavo v'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Patty, to Pesha Leah, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, find her refuge in your eternal presence and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude the services here in the chapel. We're going to make our way out the graveside. The casket will be taken out first. The families are invited to follow behind. Friends and guests, please stay in position until the family has a chance to go by. I will have the golf cart out there again for those of you who want to ride out, or you can traditionally walk, or you may go to your cars and line up behind the cars.